Blink up, baby. You just hit my line for the wind down. There's only one thing on my mind when you come around me. I get lost in where you found me. Want you to use me. You let her confuse me. Don't wanna hide the fact that you make me feel that way. Want you to give me play. I see it in your eyes, you're lonely. Come put that body on me. I hit it right, I will. I treat you right, I will. Trust me, I got you, baby. Know how to make you feel. They can't do you like I will. Nobody do you like I will. I hit it right, I will. I treat you right, I will. Trust me, I got you, baby. Know how to make you feel. They can't do you like I will. They can't do you like I will. Like I will.
I treat you right, I will.
I treat you right, I will.
Trust me, I got you, baby. Know how to make you feel. I treat you right, I will.
I treat you right, I will.
Trust me, I got you, baby. Know how to make you feel.
I hit it right, I will. I treat you right, I will. Trust me, I got you, baby. Know how to make you feel. I hit it right, I will. I treat you right, I will. They can't do you like I will. Like I will. Pick up the phone, little baby. You got me up and I'm wavy. You know I want you to myself. You know you've been driving me crazy. Look at me right in the eye and tell me it's mine. If not, I'ma make it that way. You know I want you in a major way. I bless that body, make you shade your grace. I've been trying to get you face to face. Fall through and give you ways to waste. I do what it takes. I make them walls sing on your heartstrings. Say your
I treat you right, I will. I treat you right, I will.
Trust me, I got you, baby.
Know how to make you feel. I treat you right, I will.
I hit it right, I will.
Trust me, I got you, baby.
Know how to make it feel.
Trust me, I got you.
Yo, what up, y'all? It's your boy Rob coming back at you once again with another live stream. So before we get started, you already know what to do. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice. Smash the like button, share this video out to all of your followers, and let's get it cracking. All right. So I apologize for being late. I don't know what was going on Rumble, but for some reason, there was some issues streaming to Rumble. So I had to try to reconfigure that, and for whatever reason, it just would not work. But as you guys know, if you're subscribed to the Rumble channel, eventually at some point the live stream will download onto Rumble. So if you watch the videos or watch the live streams on Rumble, you'll be able to check it out there. And also, you guys, as you know, the Rumble has all of the content, even some of the stuff that's on members only here. All right. So shout out to everybody that's in the building. It's good to see each and every one of you guys. If you guys can hear me okay, please give me a thumbs up or radiation emoji in the chat. If you guys cannot hear me, then give me a thumbs down or an angry face, and I will try to work on the tech issues. All right. Because like I said, we already had some tech issues with Rumble. So hopefully, everything will be smooth for everywhere else. All right. Shout out to Katsy. Shout out to my man Lunch. Shout out to Brooklyn Queen. We got Lloyd Sky 9 in the building. We got Black Spider in the house. Shout out to Black Spider. We got Deneen Grant. Shout out to Deneen. We got Sybil in the building. We got Bronze the God. Shout out to my man Bronze the God. Good to see you, bro. We got Lehman Lucas. Shout out to Lehman Lucas. Make sure you guys show Lehman Lucas some love. Throw him some radiation emoji in the chat. He hit your boy with a cash app. Definitely appreciate it. All right. Who else we got up in here? We got TD Media Group, formerly known as TD Hip Hop Media. Shout out to him. Make sure y'all go check his channel out. We got Tony Taylor in the building. And who else we got? I think that's it. All right. So shout out to everybody. All right. So yeah, the undocumented bros are getting flued out. Did y'all hear about that? Before we get into talking about the undocumented bros getting flued out, we're going to check out some more updates about the migrant surge, all right? Because there has been a migrant surge. Now, as you guys can see, I got Kamala Harris right here on the screen, and the border czar has decided to start doing her job. So she picked up a application and filled it out and is now working for one of these international news channels where she is doing a better job at delivering information about the border than she has been being the actual border czar. All right, so let's check out and see what Vice President Harris has to say.
The wait is getting longer for migrants in Texas seeking entry into the United States of America. Now, the U.S. authorities have shut down several brigades, in fact, bridges and ports along with its border with Mexico. Authorities in Texas said the closures were triggered by an influx of migrants triggered by transportation networks advertising travel to the southern U.S. border. Now, these networks allegedly connect the migrants to smugglers who facilitate illegal crossings of 500 to 1,000 people at a time. The migrant influx comes against the backdrop of a new Republican-backed law passed by the...
I want y'all to look at all this damn razor wire right here. Like this is almost like those kill rooms that Saw sets up. Look at all of this razor wire. It's just like razor wire just all over the place. All of those squiggly lines are razor wire. Oh, man, that's hilarious, man. That is hilarious.
Comes against the backdrop of a new Republican-backed law passed by the state of Texas. It is passed by the state governor, Greg Abbott, and it empowers authorities to prosecute and deport illegal migrants. The law, known as SB 4, makes it a state crime to illegally enter or re-enter Texas from a foreign country. Meanwhile, major U.S. agricultural groups have called for opening of 2 rail crossings to restore trade routes. Shippers and railroad industry groups have warned that the closure is disrupting trade between the two countries. The White House said it is working with the Mexican government to resolve the closure issue. Border security is expected to be a major issue in the 2024 presidential campaign. Republicans are calling for tighter immigration policies. They are seeking...
Now, where do you all fall politically as far as the border crisis? If you are more on the left when it comes to the border crisis, give me a thumbs down. If you're more on the right as far as how to handle the border, give me a thumbs up.
concessions from President Joe Biden in exchange for approving war funding for Ukraine and Israel.
Now, to me, this is already problematic, right? Because there should never be a trade-off between defending and attending to your own nation than there is giving military aid to other nations. Here's my question. When is Joe Biden going to give military aid to the southern border? When is that going to happen? And real quick, shout out to Sybil for giving military aid to Blacklight Revelations. Definitely appreciate them ducats. Make sure you guys show Sybil some love. Throw some radiation emoji in the chat. We got the first stream sponsor in the house. Shout out to Sybil. Definitely appreciate it. All right, so there's that. So here's my question. What did you guys think about Vice President Harris's debut as a news anchor? You guys think she did a good job? If you guys think that Vice President Harris did a good job with that news report, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't think that she did, give me a thumbs down. See, now with the proper backing and the proper finances and proper equipment behind her, she can do her job, and she doesn't even have to fake the funk anymore. You don't even have to fake the funk. You don't have to fake like you're one of us to be accepted. You can wear your traditional garb and speak with your traditional language and traditional accent. You don't have to ski-wheat anymore. You know what I'm saying? Blexit the ski-wheat. You know what I'm saying? To Kamala Harris. Shout out to Mr. Knock. What's good with it, bro? So now we're going to be talking about Arizona because, as you guys know, Arizona is having multiple surges of migrants at their border. They shut down the Lukeville port, and the governor there, Katie Hobbs, has sent the National Guard in. All right, let's see what else is going on.
This afternoon, White House officials and Senate Republicans resumed talks aimed at a deal on new border security measures. Without an agreement, Republicans say they will not vote for more money for Ukraine. A record number of migrants on the southern border could push President Biden to consider restrictions that in the past he's denounced. For a look at the situation on the border, Danielle Camara, who covers the border for Arizona Public Media. Danielle, we hear these numbers. We hear them say, record number, record surge of migrants at the border. You're there. You go to the border. What does a record surge look like there?
So basically, the numbers of people that are coming across the border right now in this region have almost doubled in the last few months. This area is now the area that's getting the highest number of migrants crossing the border. And what it looks like is hundreds of people a day, up to 1,000, sometimes over 1,000 people a day crossing the border and then basically turning themselves over to Border Patrol, waiting to be.
Now, shout out to Black Spider. Black Spider says the white media news stated that the immigrants are organizing to bum rush the border February 2nd if the United States does not let more of them in. Now, just from hearing a rumor like that, or just from hearing speculation like that, do you think that that's enough for the National Guard or for the military to start looking into this with some type of possible military intervention? If you guys think that it is, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't, then give me a thumbs down. Shout out to my man KO Kid Fit. Yeah, they got FLEWD out, bro. They FLEWD out. You know what I'm saying? They FLEWD them passport bros out.
Processed by Border Patrol. And Border Patrol prioritizes processing families and people with young children, of which there are many. And then they will process these single adults, mostly single men, after that. So some of these migrants are waiting out in the desert for days, waiting to be processed.
Now, I've read that they've closed one port of entry along the Arizona-Mexico border, cutting off legal migration. How does that help?
Yeah, so basically there's this port of entry in this town called Lukeville that got shut down a couple of weeks ago. Officials said that they were shutting that down so they could move the dozen or so customs officers to help Border Patrol process some of these migrants. What that means is that the direct route that was provided by that port of entry to Puerto Peñasco, to beaches that Arizonans lovingly call Arizona's beach in Mexico, that route is now shut off, which has had devastating effects for the economy in that area. As well, it is having an impact on the small communities that live around that port of entry who used to have a direct route.
So we knew that there was going to be an effect on the economy. Now, the way that these migrant issues are out of control, it definitely is not going to look favorable for Joe Biden come 2020 when it comes to the election, the way that it's negatively contributing to the economy. TD talked about this, and I've mentioned this multiple times. the way to handle this is not to just cut off the transport means between point A and point B when it comes to dealing with these border states. What that's going to do is that's going to slow down logistics chains, and it's going to create issues when it comes to commerce, as you guys can see this occurring right now, and they're talking about it in this news report.
Out to cross the border, to visit family, to go shopping, to go to doctor's appointments, and now they no longer have access to that direct route, and they would have to go hours out of their way to be able to do that crossing.
In addition to that, having to go farther to cross the border, how is this affecting life of residents on the American side?
Yeah, so, as far as the large numbers of migrants that are crossing, it is not affecting the majority of residents that live on the border and around the border. And the reason why is because a number of non-governmental organizations have really rallied together to put up services for these migrants, temporary services. There are a number of them along the border. Border Patrol will drop off migrants with these services. And then there are more robust services that send buses to bring the migrants to Tucson and to Phoenix, where they can give them overnight services. They can give them clothes, food, and assist.
They're going to bum rush for the geefs. You know what I'm saying? Them bad boys going to bum rush for them geefs. Real talk. Shout out to Jesse. And real quick, shout out everybody. We got a bunch of people watching. If everybody could take a moment, please smash that like button and try to get our likes to about 40. And also, wherever you're watching from, if you could please share the stream, that would be great.
To make their travel arrangements to go to their final destination, which is typically with friends and family members in other parts of the country. So your average person living in these border communities is not seeing these large groups of migrants on a regular basis, or for most people, probably not much at all.
Now, I know the governor has sent the National Guard to the border. What are the National Guardsmen going to do?
Yeah, so she just announced this on Friday that she would be sending the National Guard to the border.
So now this is Katie Hobbs that they're talking about here. Katie Hobbs, the Democrat governor of Arizona, has sent the National Guard to the border. She did some Karen stuff for real. She called the manager and brought the National Guards there. So hopefully the National Guards do something to help with the border situation in Arizona. However, though, I highly doubt it. They need all the branches of the military there, if you ask me.
We have in this region right now, I believe it's 243 National Guard. So as far as what they're going to do, she said that they are going to be helping with border security measures that could include drug interdiction, that could include possibly helping with the number of migrants that are crossing into the country. But since she just announced it on Friday, it is yet to be seen what that is going to look like on the ground.
And she's also asking for help from the federal government. She wrote a letter to President Biden. What does she want? What is she looking for?
Yeah, well, basically, she asked President Biden to open the port of entry immediately, which one of the reasons why local officials want that port opened is because Arizona's economy, especially their tourist economy, does get a lot of money from Mexican tourists coming into the region. And also, our governor and other elected officials have been asking for more robust money and more robust services to be helping with getting these migrants services once they come into the country and getting them to their next destination.
Is this situation sustainable?
They always keep talking about these next destinations, but my question for you guys is where do these destinations end? And not to be funny, but the United States military and the United States tax dollars, we're not Uber transport. It's not our responsibility to just, be these people's logistical vehicle to get them from point A to point B. You know what I'm saying? Caldona says, send in the robo dogs and Lizzo bots. Facts. Shout out to Al McCowan. What's good with it, bro?
Or does something really have to change?
One of the many things that's not sustainable is that a lot of the non-governmental organizations that are helping migrants in cities like Tucson and Phoenix.
So you guys heard it. They said non-sustainable. So y'all know what to do when they say non-sustainable.
Are constantly in a state of concern that they are not going to have enough resources to continue providing these services. And the reason why is because the federal government has been doling out grants to help cover these services in short funding amounts. So these non-governmental organizations can only plan so far ahead. And with the large influx of migrants, the fact that more and more people keep coming and that number keeps growing, the money is not lasting as long as these organizations need it to last. They have been saying for quite some time now that they need a funding source that is more sustainable and more long-term.
Danielle Kamara of Arizona Public Media, thank you very much.
All right, so there's that. So Nothing really changed there in Arizona except for the fact that we know that that situation is not at all sustainable. All right. So now MSNBC came out with a video, and according to MSNBC, they have the reasons of why we are seeing a migrant surge. Now, and shout out to Brooklyn Queen, shout out to DSB. My question for you guys is, why do you all think that we're seeing a surge in the migrants at the border? What's your thoughts on that? Here's what MSNBC has to say about it.
This is a story that you have been covering forever. What are you seeing today? And give us a context of what is happening today versus what your experience shows you.
Jose, well, for a lot of us who are in Eagle Pass right now reporting, we can say this is the largest group of migrants we've ever seen in Eagle Pass in the years that we've been reporting in this area. Now, for context, I think we need to understand that a lot of migrants were in Mexico for the last few months or years. And in late October, we saw large caravans move through Mexico. So many of us expected this new surge at some point, either in November or at some point in December. And we are now seeing this. We're seeing large groups of migrants that are arriving, not just here. It's happening in Arizona. It's happening in parts of California. It's happening in different parts of the border. Again, these are migrants that had been in Mexico for a long time. There's issues in Mexico, Jose. As you know, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, the president, is reaching the end of his presidency. The federal immigration agency there going through so many issues that they've essentially stopped policing many of the areas in the country. I've spoken to my contacts in South Mexico who say many of
Did you guys hear that? He said that they have just stopped policing. I'm going to run that back real quick.
No, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, the president, is reaching the end of his presidency. The federal immigration agency there going through so many issues that they've essentially stopped policing many of the areas in the country. I've spoken to my contacts in South Mexico who say many of
This is Mexico that he's talking about. So one of the reasons why they're claiming that there's a huge migrant influx is because the Mexican authorities have just stopped all forms of regulation. Okay? They've just stopped all forms of regulation. Now, here's my question. If they just stop all of the regulation long term, what kind of effect is that going to have on what's going on at the border?
parts of the border. Again, these are migrants that had been in Mexico for a long time. There's issues in Mexico, Jose. As you know, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, the president, is reaching the end of his presidency. The federal immigration agency there going through so many issues that they've essentially stopped policing many of the areas in the country. I've spoken to my contacts in South Mexico who say many of the migrants are telling each other now is the time to go to the U.S.-Mexico border. So you look at this field. We have about 2,000 or more migrants. Over on the right-hand side, we still see lines of migrants that are still arriving. Everything down this line, there's lines going down the river of migrants that just cross and are being brought into the field. And then you have the people that slept here overnight. By the way, this was like this on Monday. It was like this on Tuesday. It's still a large number of migrants because as they're being processed, more are coming in. You see them holding those aluminum mylar blankets to try to stay warm in the cold weather. And then over on the right-hand side, Jose, we have CBP officers trying to process them as fast as possible. What you see here are the groups that are getting ready to be loaded on to buses. You mentioned that the Federal Bureau of Detention is now helping. Here we go. This is one of the buses that is being used to transport these migrants. So you have an entire system being created here in this holding area, Jose, where
yeah, this is wild. Now, Kathy says we seriously need military on the border. I agree. If you all agree that what we've seen here, the evidence shows that the border is in dire need of military intervention, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree that the border doesn't need military intervention, then give me a thumbs down and let me know what kind of intervention that you think would be sustainable and appropriate for the situation that we have going on at the border. And shout out to Patricia Slade, B1. What's good with it?
Essentially, it's too big for them to do it anywhere else. So they chose this field, and this is what's happening. Authorities, of course, overwhelmed. Now, we also know that the bridge that's used for the railroads has been shut down here and in El Paso. We're told that the agents that normally police the railroads crossing into the U.S. are now focusing on processing migrants. So that's happening here in Texas. Again, Jose, as I mentioned, we have situations like this in other parts of the border. Arizona is also overwhelmed with the number of migrants. So important to keep in mind that tens of thousands of migrants are in Mexico. They had been waiting for months to make their way north. Something changed in Mexico with the immigration system, with a lack of enforcement. The government there, federal authorities focusing right now on other issues that are happening in the country, and many many migrants are now arriving, and we don't know when this surge might stop. We know that some of these trains have stopped crossing into the U.S., and usually a lot of them come on these trains, so perhaps that might slow down the flow of migrants. But what we know is that there's still many more in Mexico attempting to make it to the U.S.-Mexico border, Jose.
All right, so there's that. Now, their explanation of what's going on at the border is that the Mexican authorities have broken down. Okay, so they're saying that Mexico is not policing their borders, they're not enforcing immigration policy, and as a result of all of those things, they're allowing more amounts of migrants to make it to the border. Now, how many people watched Undocumented last night? If you watched Undocumented last night, you will notice that in 2 of the news reports that we took a look at last night, the Mexican president verbally has come out and said that he does not agree with the measures that Greg Abbott is putting in place to deter the migrants. So what that tells me is that MSNBC could possibly be making up excuses for Mexico, because out of the president's mouth, it sounded like, for one, the president does not support the efforts to not allow this influx of migrants into the United States. And he definitely is not in support of Greg Abbott at all. It sounds to me like he wants the borders to be open. So if he wants the borders to be open, then he's definitely not going to be compliant with trying to restrict the amount of migration that comes into the United States. And that will be coming straight from Mexico. Okay? If you guys agree with that assessment of the situation, y'all know what to do. If y'all disagree, y'all know what to do.
Say that they are overwhelmed at the southern border. Thousands of people are waiting to get in each day or are finding their way across the border over illegally. And one response to the influx is drawing heavy criticism from some who say it threatens the economy. Our Omar Villafranca is along the border in Eagle Pass, Texas. Omar, good morning.
Good morning. Border Patrol agents are stretched so thin they're having to get customs officers over to help. And it's still not enough, as thousands of migrants like the ones behind me continue to cross over into the United States.
Desperate to enter the United States, these are some of the thousands of migrants who cross the Rio Grande each day. After more than 2 months, this Venezuelan family finally made it to the river. But on the other side is this barbed barricade set up by the state of Texas. It's littered with wet belongings and torn clothing. CBS News saw dozens of people illegally cross this section after using a metal framework to create an opening. Many of them women with children crawling.
This is ridiculous. And just remember, Joe Biden, they're already able to get through this wire. Joe Biden was sending the federal customs and border people to the border to cut the wire, which, as you can see here, clearly the wire is not an effective deterrent. You know what I'm saying? They're just getting right through it. Shout out to Carlton. What's good with it, bro?
Their way into the U.S.
This crisis has spiraled way out of control, and we are at the point of no return.
Thousands stay here in a makeshift staging ground in Eagle Pass, huddled together with Mylar blankets to stay warm, waiting all day to be processed by overwhelmed federal Border Patrol agents.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed SB 4 into law, and if it goes into effect in March, that means that state troopers and deputies could charge and arrest migrants like
Shout out
these
to
behind
Crew
me
Royalty. What's
for
good,
illegally
bro?
crossing the border.
We need a whole much more. We need a lot of help.
Maverick County Sheriff Tom Schmerber says he is already low on resources and doesn't have the manpower to enforce Abbott's law.
It's going to be impossible to process one individual, just any kind of a crime, whatever it is. It takes about 45 minutes, just one person. And we're talking about a whole bunch of immigrants.
People we talked to came from Venezuela or Honduras, and they said that on their way up, they saw groups of hundreds, maybe even thousands, on their way here to the U.S. border.
So, you know, Texas has like this new law on the books. It's not going to be implemented till March. But what is Texas asking for now so that it can have the ability to actually enforce the law? Because I wouldn't think that the resources are in place.
At this point, Anne-Marie, Texas has said that they are not asking, they're doing on their own, claiming that they have a sovereign right, that the state has a sovereign right to defend the border that is, well, also part of the U.S., also theirs. It's their burden. And basically what they're saying is they're going to empower DPS troopers and also sheriff deputies, local law enforcement, that if they are out doing whatever regular business they do, and they come across someone who may have entered the country illegally, that they can charge and arrest and start deportation processes through judges to get these people out of the country. And the law, the way it was written, was basically blaming the administration for not doing their job. And they said Texas is going to do the job that it has. Of course, in the lawsuit that was filed by the ACLU and other civil rights groups, they're saying it is not the state's business to do that. It is the federal government's business.
Now, do you all agree with the ACLS lawsuit? Yeah, and that's facts. Shout out to Crew Royalty. Crew Royalty says, B1 bro BLR, they could literally transfer their 85,000 IRS agents. Yeah. Facts. Why did they put so much emphasis into the IRS and not put it into the border? And I got to agree with Deneen. If you guys agree with Deneen, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. Deneen says this proves that Americans have no power. Facts. Hot now, check this out. What do you all think that America's allies are saying, right? Because if you're looking at them, if you're an American ally and you're looking at America, right? You're looking at America sending all of this military equipment, all of this military aid all over the world. And then you're looking at the United States not able to handle an invasion that's a alleged non-military invasion here. So does this help or hurt America's credibility? That's the question.
The border, and we're gonna have to see what happens. I mean, a lot of people are
Right.
expecting this case to make it all the way up to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, so that the legal wrangling aside, as we've seen in your stories, the people that are choosing to come here are doing it under duress. They are often running for their lives. I wonder if there are concerns, if anyone's expressed it to you, for the people who will come anyway because they have few choices, and if they come and end up and find themselves getting arrested, are there concerns about unintended consequences should this law actually go into effect?
Well, there are people who are saying, the state of Texas and Texas Governor Greg Abbott are thinking this will be a deterrent. But there have been other federal laws that they thought would be deterrents that didn't work. So I don't know if this.
Shout out to TD. TD says, I don't know about American allies, but I know that Putin must be laughing his butt off. You already know he laughing his butt off. He laughing his butt off going like Cobra Commander.
Idiots! I'm surrounded by incompetent idiots!
You think Putin's sitting over there sounding like Cobra Commander?
This is going to be a deterrent for people who are coming in. Of all the states that border Mexico, Texas has the largest border, which means you have the largest spots to try to come in to the United States and near some populated areas. There's some other people who oppose it who say this is not going to deter people. If this is the first time you're trying to cross over based on the
shout out to Black Bitcoin Key and Chaos Rain. What's good with y'all?
State law that they're trying to implement, it would just be a state crime misdemeanor. Could you be deported? Yes, but would that hurt your federal chance to get in? It remains to be seen. It's kind of murky the way it's written. So there's a lot that hasn't been tested if this law is even implemented.
And, how do people in Texas feel about the various ways that the governor has tried to implement restrictions that would make it more difficult to cross the border?
I think the only universal agreement is that what's happening behind me is not sustainable and something needs to be done.
Right.
After that, it turns into a political fight. There's even sheriff deputies here on the border and sheriffs on the border who said, we don't have the manpower to do this. Just here in Maverick County, the sheriff told me that, if this were to be implemented and his deputies, he only has 4 working per shift, if they have to worry about processing somebody who may be in the country illegally in a border county, he's only got 250 spots in his jail, 180 are there right now. He doesn't physically have space or manpower, he says, to stop DUIs or break-ins in the other parts of the country. They said, we're just not staffed for it. It's a job that we couldn't do. He feels that his job is to protect the citizens here of this county from crimes. And he said a lot of these migrants don't stick around, they're just passing through. And mind you, this is not just border communities. You're talking Dallas County, farther north, Harris County in Houston, somebody up in Lubbock. They would also have to enforce this law. Question is, would they? Do they have the people power? Do they have the space in jails?
All right, a lot of questions. Omar.
Now, not having space in jails, if you ask me, is never a reason to make an excuse to not enforce laws. Because as we've seen before, they don't care about not having enough rooms in jail. They'll build a new jail. You know what I'm saying? If this was something that they were doing that would be putting some black people in jail, oh, they would definitely build more jails. They would make more room. You know what I'm saying? So now we're going to talk about the bros that's getting flued out. Because Texas Governor Greg Abbott said, I'm tired of looking at y'all. Y'all about to get flued out. Y'all about to get flued out to Chicago, and they can deal with y'all in Chicago. So migrants have been flown from Texas in private planes to Chicago O'Hare Airport. That's what's going on right now. Okay.
As the number of migrants in Chicago surpasses 26,000 and city officials crack down on bus drivers violating local laws, Texas officials are changing their tactics. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Seth Schneider. I'm Don.
Hey, Carlson said, I'm waiting for a migrant to wear a everybody need a chance now shirt. That's hilarious.
Hasbrook, a new development for the first time. Migrants were flown here on a private plane. Casey Cronus is live at O'Hare, where additional planes could be on the way. Casey.
And city officials likely will not know until they are here. That is what happened last night. Texas officials say it is in response to the city obstructing its busing program, while local leaders are calling it trafficking. At the direction of Texas Governor Greg Abbott, more than 100 migrants.
Unbelievable. So they're calling this trafficking. Now, the reason why they're doing this as a workaround for that new legislation that Mayor Brandon Johnson put into place. And that legislation that Mayor Brandon Johnson put into place is legislation that stops buses from being allowed to transport migrants to Chicago. So they said, forget it. We just do the jet life. We just do the jet life. We just flew them out. And that's what they're doing.
Sported a private plane from El Paso to O'Hare Tuesday. Abbott's office tells our sister station in Dallas that because Mayor Brandon Johnson is, quote, targeting migrant buses from Texas, we are expanding our operation to include flights to Chicago, unquote.
We have a governor that now open.
What do you guys think about this, about flying the undocumented bros out? Why don't they just fly them out of the country? See, because if you ask me, like, you can't give Greg Abbott too much credit because he's still complicit in this. He's still complicit. If he wanted to, he could fly him out of the country. But he's not. So just remember that.
Flights to Chicago, unquote.
We have a governor that now openly and defiantly is saying that he's going to commit human trafficking to show Chicago and to teach us a lesson.
Monday, the mayor announced harsher penalties for bus drivers who don't follow guidelines, including impounding and towing buses that try to skirt the law.
They're just dropping all people anywhere. Do you understand how raggedy and how evil that is?
Tinley Park now passing its own set of ordinances, discouraging buses from stopping there.
This is about, making the bus companies be accountable.
The village has not gotten any migrant buses, but if it does, bus companies will need to fill out an application requesting permission and identify everyone on board for background checks.
And assures us that you're providing them a safe place to stay. They have to know who they're taking up. Not only is that for the safety of the bus and other passengers on the bus, but also the communities that they're arriving in.
City officials say that buses have already tried dropping migrants off in Cicero, Schiller Park, and Rosemont. And in response to today's developments, Alderman Sigcho Lopez is calling on the federal government to launch an investigation into Abbott's practices. Reporting live at O'Hare, Casey Cronus, Fox 32, Chicago.
So now here's my question. What is an investigation into Abbott's practices going to show? What is that going to show? That's not going to be effective at all because Governor Abbott's not doing anything illegal. Just because he's doing something that's making the politicians in Chicago uncomfortable, that does not mean that he's doing anything illegal. And nothing is going to come out of an investigation. Would you guys agree? If you guys agree with that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. And real quick, shout out to everybody that's watching. We got 44 people watching and we got 41 likes. If everybody could take a moment, smash that like button and get us to 60, that'd be great. Uh-oh. Hold on real quick. All right, there we go.
Mark and Tanya, local elected officials from the Latino caucus are calling on President Biden to help. This morning, Alderman Byron Cijo Lopez and U.S. Representative Chuy Garcia gathered with other city and community leaders in front of the U.S. Immigration and Customs Building to demand more funding from the federal government. This comes on the heels of a 5-year-old boy who died in a city-run shelter.
Now, shout out to Black Spider, because Black Spider had actually mentioned this earlier, and I'm about to see if I could find her comment. Let me see. Let me see here. Where is that comment at? Where is it at? Okay, I can't find it. But Black Spider had asked about this 8-year-old or this 5-year-old boy, and she said they still don't know the cause of this 5-year-old boy's death. Now, my thing is, more federal funding is not going to help them figure out the cause of this 5-year-old boy's death. More federal funding is not going to help them prevent future deaths like this 5-year-old boy's death. The only thing that's going to help them figure out what caused this 5-year-old boy's death is if they actually figure out what caused this 5-year-old boy's death. And then that way, when they figure it out, they'll be able to put into place means to deter it, right? But the issue is that the government, right? The government wants to have more funding. Or I'm sorry, the government of Illinois and Chicago want more funding, right? But Brandon Johnson has already shown a poor spending habit. He's already shown a poor spending habit. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that the healthcare company was paid $90 million to manage the shelters. There's a healthcare company that's running the shelters, a healthcare company, and they're getting overpaid, and they're not keeping people healthy or alive. The federal government is going to take that. They're going to look at all of the money that's being spent, and they're going to say, you guys aren't even spending the money properly. You're not getting anything. And that right there is why the federal government is refusing to help New York. They're refusing to help Chicago. They're going to refuse to help everybody because all of these places are overpaying. They're paying their buddies that have the contracts lots of money so they can possibly get kickbacks from it. That's all fine and good, but when the situation boils over and you actually need more money to be able to deal with these problems, now you're not going to get it because you've overspent it on corruption costs. That's on them. You know what I'm saying? And shout out to TD Hip Hop Media. TD Media Group, formerly known as TD Hip Hop Media. RIP to that little boy. I mean that sincerely as a father, but that boy came here sick and more funding won't stop that. Facts. And the children that are coming here sick, once they get integrated into our school systems, they're going to get our children sick. And then they're still not going to know what caused those problems.
Pilsen, and in the wake of Texas flying migrants to Chicago, Texas Governor Greg Abbott releasing video and claiming responsibility for flying more than 100 migrants to O'Hare Airport on Tuesday. This morning, the Latino caucus here in Chicago calling it cruel and pleading with the Biden administration to step up.
I support the call for additional resources from the federal government. That is essential.
Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you guys throw some radiation emoji and some flames in the chat for the second stream sponsor, my man Lloyd Sky 9. Lloyd Sky 9 says this level of corruption is unsustainable. Great breakdown, Rob. Appreciate it, bro. Appreciate it. To me, it is wild that other politicians are not calling this out for what it is. But it shows what kind of government that we have. On either side, they're not about best interest. They're only about self-preservation and increasing the amount of money that they get.
It's critical for Chicago. It's critical for New York, for Houston, for all the other cities that are seeking to do everything that they can, but they cannot do it alone.
flight saying Sanctuary City, Chicago started obstructing and targeting our busing mission. Texas will now expand our operation to include flights to Chicago. Until Biden steps up to secure the border, we will continue to provide overwhelmed Texas border towns with much needed relief. Last week, Chicago began impounding and citing buses that violated designated drop-off zones. Mayor Johnson reacting to the charter flight last night on WTTW Chicago Tonight.
The type of chaos, the disruption that the governor of Texas is determined to create and cause, we're doing everything in our power to deal with this very overwhelming international crisis that has placed the city of Chicago as a target by this governor simply because he doesn't want to adhere to law.
What law is being broken? Shout out to James Sumler. What's good with it? I want you guys to let me know the answer to that question in the comment section. What law is being broken?
Back here live, the White House is calling Governor Abbott's actions a political stunt. The White House also says that the president is working to make a real difference, and that means working with Congress to find an agreement on immigration reform.
The president is trying to make it so that it's easier for him to get his money to help his war buddies. That's what the president is doing. The president is sitting there trying to help his war buddies. Yeah, you noticed that too? Shout out to Carlton. Brandon Johnson got a shape up for his TV interview. Fact, his head looking real sharp. And I don't mean that in a good way. Shout out to Torian. What's good with it, bro? So, let me see something here. Give me 1 second, you guys. Let me see. Let's set some stuff up here. A lot of this stuff that's going on is just ridiculous, to be honest. So let's check this out right here. Then we'll get back to the details on the flights.
Now to the southern border, the situation described as a disaster. Authorities overwhelmed by the surge of migrants. Rail lines have been closed, and now officials in Texas are taking new action. Here's ABC's Derek Dennis.
This morning, the crisis at the southern border going airborne. Texas Governor Greg Abbott releasing video and announcing he's now flying migrants to Chicago, 120 arriving on the first flight because the city, quote, started obstructing and targeting our busing mission. It comes after Abbott signed a law this week that, if upheld, would authorize local police to arrest migrants suspected of crossing the border illegally. A record 12,600 crossing in one day.
Now, the thing that's interesting about this, right, is you would think that Brandon Johnson wouldn't really have an issue with this state jurisdiction of being able to arrest people who are attempting to enter illegally and put them through court proceedings to send them back to Mexico. You would think that Brandon Johnson and other Democrats wouldn't have a problem with that, because if that's effective, then it would give them some relief as to all of the influx of migrants coming into their cities as well. What it is, if you ask me, is that the United States of America, the federal government, Joe Biden, sold all of these politicians a bill of goods. He basically sold them this line of, you can be a sanctuary city, you can do whatever you want to, and you'll never have to worry about these border problems, because these border problems are only going to be isolated to Texas. Texas basically said, we're not going to continue to keep absorbing all of the issues that are coming from the border. So what we're going to do is, these places that are saying that they welcome immigrants, migrants, and illegals, we're going to send the people to there, because we don't welcome them here. But there are places that do welcome them and will help you get there. They never saw this coming. Now it's here. Now you got all these Democrats, because they have to deal with the same problem that a lot of these Republican border states have to deal with. Now some Democrats are saying, we got to stop this. This isn't going to work, which is what Texas and Arizona and all these other places that are right on the border have been saying forever, but it falls upon deaf ears because the Democrats want to gaslight with this kind of perception that they have that they're not even good at actually playing. They want to play a role, and they're just not that role. So there's that. And real quick, make sure you guys show TD some love. Shout out to TD for sharing the video into his community post. Definitely appreciate it. And also, real quick, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys have not smashed the like button, please take a moment, smash the like button. Also, if you guys have not hit the bell, please take a moment and hit the bell.
Day alone. ABC's Maria Villarreal is in Eagle Pass, Texas.
There has been a steady flow of migrants funneling through this grassy pit. One group leaves on a bus and another one is escorted over the riverbank. Just yesterday, 4,400 apprehensions in this area alone. Many will wait 10 to 12 hours just to be processed. Some will wait up to 2 days. Overnight, they'll sleep on this dirt with no shelter, just the clothes on their back and those foil blankets. Processing facilities are full. Agents tell me they are overworked and overwhelmed.
We need to surge immigration judges to the border. This is America. People need to get their cases heard in days, not years. And if they do not qualify for asylum, they need to be deported.
And now growing concern about the economic impact of this surge in migrants. Officials recently closed some rail crossings at the border, halting freight trains that carry everything from produce to auto parts. One rail company says the shutdown is costing $200 million per day. Smugglers play a
Woo! Did you guys hear those numbers? $200 million per day. If that continues throughout 2024 to 2025, 365 days, what amount of money is that going to be? 200 million a day is how much money is being lost as a result of this. Listen to this again.
To auto parts. One rail company says the shutdown is costing $200 million per day.
$200 million a day. Is there any business that's sustainable that can operate with that kind of loss? Facts. If you guys agree with TD, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree with TD, give me a thumbs down. That is not asylum seeking. That is looking for a come up. Facts. That's looking for some ducats, creeping on a come up like Bone Thugs and Harmony.
Smugglers play a major role in this crisis. A U.S. official says people acting as travel agents in places as far away as Africa are helping migrants travel to Mexico before being connected with smugglers for the trip to the U.S. border. Derek Dennis, ABC News.
Shout out to DC Precise for hitting the unsustainable button. That's what we do. Every time you guys hear the word unsustainable, anytime you guys hear that something is unsustainable, we've been saying that way before this stuff started. So anytime you hear unsustainable, put the no sign in the comment section, exactly like how DC Precise did right there. Shout out to you, bro. So now what we're about to do here is look at a quick video clip from NBC 5 Chicago that's talking about the undocumented bros getting flued out, because that's exactly what's going on. Governor Abbott is trying to use flying them out as a workaround for Brandon Johnson creating the legislation to punish his buses for shipping the migrants. All right.
Let's start with those new developments in Chicago's migrant crisis. A plane shows up at O'Hare unannounced, loaded with migrants, and the governor of Texas admits he chartered that plane to send Chicago leaders a message.
The plane took off from El Paso and arrived last night at O'Hare Airport, dropping off nearly 100 asylum seekers. NBC 5's Natalie Martinez joining us live with an update on the situation at O'Hare. Natalie?
Allison and Stefan, interesting to know that 2 people on that plane did take off in an Uber before police arrived. But also tonight, we know that the mayor is looking for space for those new arrivals.
Tonight at O'Hare Airport, migrants could be seen camping out in the bus shuttle center near Terminal 1.
If it's like that, why doesn't Brandon Johnson send them back to Texas? Honestly, where they need to go is back to the countries that they came from illegally, right? And try to come into the United States legally. But if it's like this and they're playing this silly game of tit for tat, why doesn't Brandon Johnson send them back to Texas?
There are currently 300 people staying at.
Now, another thing that I want you guys to just think about, right? There's no metropolitan cities in Texas on the border. Somebody fact check me on that. Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, Houston. None of those cities are on the border. So you got like little rinky-dink cities, little boondock cities like Eagle Pass, right? Now, mind you, these are tiny cities. Tiny. Imagine Eagle Pass getting more migrants than what New York City and Chicago are getting. New York City and Chicago are huge. If I'm not mistaken, New York City is the biggest city in the United States. And Chicago is the third largest, possibly, maybe the fourth. I don't know. I think it's the third. So imagine the effect on with all of the migrants that are going into these little rinky-dink cities, because these rinky-dink cities are getting more migrants just from the border infusion than what New York and Chicago are getting from the flights. Imagine that. Shout out to Blue Electric. What's good with it? Shout out to Nub Glory. Nub Glory says, Governor Abbott is an enemy of the American people. Everyone in the state of Illinois didn't vote for this. He's very inconsiderate of American citizens in places outside of Texas. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I also believe that Governor Greg Abbott is a WS. You know what I'm saying? And that's the reason why he's sending all of these people to these black cities, because they've long used Democrat and they've long used liberal as a dog whistle when they are too cowardly to talk about black people directly. So I don't disagree that Abbott is a piece of crap.
At O'Hare, most arriving by the busload from Texas. And after last night, dozens more have arrived to O'Hare by plane.
It's signature flight support. They have 100 migrants on there.
The governor of Texas confirms his state chartered a Boeing 737.
Did somebody call 911 because they dropped off the migrants?
State chartered a Boeing 737 to drop off about 100 migrants. This is video that his administration shot, edited, O'Hare by plane.
It's signature flight support. They have 100 migrants.
Oh, okay, Range Coast. So this must be like some type of dispatch radio. I thought this was somebody had called the police. I was about to say, I don't know what they thought the police was going to do.
On there.
The governor of Texas confirms his state chartered a Boeing 737 to drop off about 100 migrants. This is video that his administration shot, edited, and sent to us, showing the asylum seekers boarding the jet in El Paso. In a statement, Governor Greg Abbott's office confirms that the flight was in direct response to the city of Chicago fining what it calls rogue buses that have dropped off migrants outside of the city's designated drop-off zones.
It is unconscionable.
Alderman Byron Cicho Lopez says he believes the governor's actions are shameful, violating state and federal law.
We have elected officials at the highest level of government.
Now, here goes my question. What laws are being broken by Abbott doing this? I don't think that there's any laws that Governor Abbott is breaking by doing this. This is just this guy that doesn't understand politics, that got a political job, sitting up here babbling, sounding like somebody who's just desperate and drowning, which is probably the actual situation. He's desperate and drowning. But I want to ask you guys this situation, a question about the situation. What laws have been broken by these flights being sent out? I don't think that any laws have been broken. And real quick, shout out to everybody that's watching. We got 60 people watching. If you guys can take a moment, smash that like button. Also, if you guys can hit the bell and please share the stream to your social media, that would be great. I think, let me see. Let me take a look here. See what we got. See what we're working with. We got 52 likes and we got 61 people watching. If everybody could bang on that like button and get us to 70 likes, that'd be great.
Like Governor Abbott, to play with people's lives that already cost us at least 2 lives here in Chicago.
He's referring to a 3-year-old girl who died while in transport to Chicago and a 5-year-old migrant, John Carlos Martinez, who died Sunday after a medical emergency at this Pilsen shelter at 22nd and Halstead.
the Department of Homeland Security must intervene.
A statement released by Governor Abbott's office today reads in part, because Mayor Johnson is failing to live up to his city's welcoming city ordinance by targeting migrant buses from Texas, we are expanding our operation to include flights to Chicago. Tonight, even the White House is weighing in, saying in a statement in part, Governor Abbott is not interested in solutions. He only seeks to use people as political pawns.
Now, here's my thing, right? If that's the case, then why is the federal government intervening in Abbott's efforts to try to stop people from coming in from Mexico to his state? Make that make sense. And yeah, that's facts. And that, honestly, James, that's something that you will see with all of these political cowards. James says he's letting that man bully him while he attacks ADOS and FBA. Yeah, that's a fact. If you all agree with that, give me a thumbs up. If you all disagree, give me a thumbs down.
Alderman Lopez says his office, as well as the Latino caucus, are planning a press conference that'll be happening tomorrow morning at 9. We are live at O'Hare. Natalie Martinez, NBC5 News.
All right, so there's that. All right, so now we're going to take a look at this article real quick from the Chicago Tribune. Okay, let me see. And this article here from the Chicago Tribune breaks down the situation about the flights a little bit further. Migrants flown to Chicago from Texas on chartered flight, officials say. Private plane, jet life. Migrants were flown from Chicago to Texas, or I'm sorry, flown to Chicago from Texas on a chartered flight Tuesday night in the state's latest effort to ship people to the sanctuary city after buses carrying the migrants have been penalized. The city did not receive prior notice to their arrival and has had no communication with Texas officials, according to Mayor Brandon Johnson's spokesperson, Ronnie Reese. Reese said he wasn't sure how the city would respond. Andrew Mihailris, a spokesman for Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott, said in a statement to the Tribune that the migrants had signed consent waivers available in multiple languages upon boarding the flight. Until President Biden steps up and does his job to secure the border, Texas will continue taking historic action to help our local partners respond to this Biden-made crisis, Mihailris said in a statement. Now, here's the thing, right? If there was a black town with a black mayor that was dealing with this exact same border crisis in Texas, Governor Abbott would refuse to provide his locality with any funding at all, even if that black mayor was politically aligned with Governor Abbott. Abbott would refuse to help him, and that's what people got to understand. Politically aligning with these people is not a blanket to make you abuse proof. These people are still going to target you, which means that you got to target first and hit them first. But for some reason, people want to do the hold hands, kumbaya church thing. Here's my question. How has that worked so far? How has that worked? I'll tell you guys how it's worked. It's worked here. It's worked. If you look on YouTube, we have all the complaint-based content based on all of this failure to act at hitting first. There's millions of videos about epic fails. This is one of them. That's how dealing with things the way that we deal with them works. Which means that it's time for people to stop dealing with things that way. And I gotta agree with Noob Glory. Governor Abbott is waging war against Black American men who live in sanctuary cities who did not vote for this. Absolutely. If you guys agree with Noob Glory, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. That's absolutely what's going on. So now here it says Migrants cited Biden flying migrants across the country as justification for the plane sent Tuesday night. Texas sent flights to Chicago after Johnson started targeting migrant buses from Texas, according to Mel Harris. He said the mayor is failing to live up to his city's welcoming city ordinance. Mel Harris said 120 passengers were aboard the flight, but did not respond to questions about how much chartered flight cost or who paid for it. Now, I'm curious, who do you guys think paid for it? More than likely, the Texas taxpayers paid for it. The Texas taxpayers are probably more than likely who paid for it. According to Chicago officials, police at O'Hare International Airport received a call around 7:15 p.m. that a private plane chartered by the Texas Division of Emergency Management had landed and left about 100 asylum seekers at Signature Flight, officials said in a statement to the Tribune. Two unidentified individuals who flew on the plane reportedly fled Signature Flight and left the scene in an Uber prior to the arrival of police, officials said. The plane's arrival at O'Hare was first reported by WTTW, so we can take a look at that. Jose Orleman, who is 38, from Barquisimeto, Venezuela, was one of the migrants who arrived last night on a private plane and sat on a metal bench at O'Hare on Wednesday afternoon. Our journey from Venezuela, we thought that we'd take a bus, he said in Spanish. But when we were trying to buy a bus ticket, they told us we should go to the airport instead. Okay. Orlana said they didn't have any connections in the United States and had heard there were shelter options and resources available in Chicago. So they, like Grind and Motivate said, like KOK Fit said, they're coming for them gifts. Why do you need these gifts? He was surprised by the comfort of their journey to Chicago in a private plane. I don't know why he was surprised. It was a private plane. His wife, Anna Vaccaro, has a cancerous tumor in her head, he said, and his 8-year-old son, Gianfranco Matute, has leukemia. They were both brought immediately to a hospital Tuesday night from the airport to receive medical care. There's people who are American who are dying of those diseases who are sitting in their house right now because they can't afford health care.
What kind of shit is that?
You know what I'm saying? So now here it says they were so grateful to arrive by plane because taking 2 buses would have been hard. Orlana said, nothing should seem hard after you just walked through the Darien Gap. Literally any kind of motorized transportation should seem like easy mode for you after you've just tracked through multiple countries, sat in the beating hot desert sun in Texas, and crossed through a jungle with all kind of poisonous animals in it. The city reported Wednesday that 607 buses have arrived in Chicago from border cities since August 31st of 2022. Migrants have also arrived to sanctuary cities with the help of plane tickets purchased by Catholic Charities in San Antonio. On Saturday, Johnson's deputy chief of staff, Christina Picon-Zayas, told the Tribune that Texas had halted all communication with the city of Chicago following the city's harsher penalties for bus owners whose vehicles violate rules to rein in chaotic bus arrivals. On December 13th, City Council approved an ordinance that buses would face seizure and impoundment for unloading passengers without a permit or outside of approved hours and locations. Violators are subject to $3,000 fines plus towing and storage fees. Now, here's my question. What way does Texas have to organize the migrants that come in? like how they're trying to control the migrants that come in on the buses in Chicago? That's my question for you guys. Let me know. To dodge penalties and fines, bus drivers have dropped migrants off in Indiana and given them Amtrak tickets or Metro cards to get downtown, according to city officials. Jose Ramirez, who is 35 from Venezuela, sat next to Orlana at the airport Wednesday afternoon eating a sandwich that the shelter staff at the airport passed out for a snack. He said he arrived with the help of a ticket purchased by Catholic Charities. We heard at the shelter where we were staying in Texas that when buses drop people off in Chicago, they leave them on the side of the road, then buy them a train ticket, he said. Reese said based on the buses arriving from Texas without coordination, it would not be surprising if Chicago received more chartered flights from southern border cities. I think that what they're doing is chaotic, said Reese, but we'll continue to meet the moment and provide support for individuals as they arrive. According to city data Wednesday, there are now 296 migrants staying at O'Hare Airport waiting for shelter placement. The city has received more than 26,100 migrants since the first buses were sent in 2022. Orlana and his family sat on the floor at the airport eating food and waiting. Vaccaro touched the tumor in her head and grimaced. We understand that the shelter system is full, that someone has to leave for us to enter, Orlana said. So, yeah, I don't know. What I can see happening is these buses are going to start slowing, and then what's going to end up happening is that there's going to be just a massive influx of these planes. There's going to be a massive influx of these planes, and Chicago's not going to know what to do with them. And yeah, facts, I got to pay for sandwiches too, Jay. I don't get them for free. You know what I'm saying? Definitely don't get them for free. That's one thing about being American. You know what I'm saying? When you're an American, you don't get anything in America for free. That's interesting, isn't it? Kind of counterintuitive. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at this article here and watch this video that they so kindly provided.
Mayor Brandon Johnson recently released the People's Plan for Community Safety that targets resources to some of the city's most at-risk neighborhoods.
This comes as the mayor and city are facing an avalanche of problems stemming from the migrant crisis, with a tragic death this week of a 5-year-old staying at a Pilsen shelter, and news today, as you just heard, that Texas is chartering planes to fly more migrants to Chicago. And joining us now to answer all these questions and more, Mayor Brandon Johnson. Mayor, just a few things on your plate as you join us tonight.
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for having me tonight.
Thanks for joining us. And of course, we want to get into this community safety plan that you and your team unveiled recently. But we, as Paris mentioned, we've got to talk about the migrant crisis, and WTTW News learning that Texas is chartering a private plane that landed last night with just under 100 migrants to Chicago. What do we know about this situation so far?
Yeah, what we know is, as I've said repeatedly, the governor of Texas is determined to create chaos throughout the entire country. And this is after the city council passed an ordinance that I put forward to provide more structure, to provide more calm and some more coordination with how buses are arriving in the city of Chicago. And quite frankly, what's actually quite disturbing is that many of the individuals who are coming from the border, there's no coordination at the border either. So many of the individuals are not being treated, they're not being processed, they're not getting medical attention. So by the time they arrive in the city of Chicago, they're coming in quite severe conditions: cold, tired, wet, hungry, traumatized. The type of chaos that this governor is insistent on creating throughout this entire country. My administration in 7 months has literally stood up dozens of shelters. We have over 14,000 that are living in shelters right now. We're providing medical care, vaccinations, screening.
Now, what he should be saying is how he's dealing with this crisis while maintaining the well-being of the people of Chicago. But what's going on in Chicago is that a lot of these migrants are being prioritized over the residents of Chicago. The migrants are being prioritized over the residents of Chicago. And Brandon Johnson isn't making mention of that. And he's not making mention of that because that makes him look bad. that's going to really hurt his re-election bid, if there is one.
The Cook County government has been an incredible partner as we set up appointments for these families. We provide transportation for these families to get medical treatment. Almost 5,000 students right now in the Chicago public schools that we are educating. Most of them are pre-K to third grade. And so the city of Chicago has had to bear this incredible responsibility, while at the same time, the ignorance that's coming from the state of Texas is causing and breeding the type of chaos that not just the city is experiencing, but the entire country is experiencing.
And we'll talk about the shelters themselves as well. But we know the city has also cracked down on buses, fining and impounding those that drop off migrants outside of the agreed upon times and zones. What do you know about the impact?
What is Texas supposed to do with all the migrants that are there? All of those states that have cities right on the border. My question is, what are those places supposed to do with those people? Yeah, facts. What are they supposed to do with them? That's my question. If you ask me, they need to send them back. Everywhere needs to send them back. If you ask me, Texas, Chicago, New York, all of these places, they're all doing the same thing. And what they're doing is they're doing a politically theatrical game. They're doing a politically theatrical game of passing the buck, passing the responsibility. Governor Abbott could send those people back to Mexico. The sanctuary cities could support Governor Abbott. But instead, they're all playing political theater. Greg Abbott is just as guilty of playing political theater as Brandon Johnson. Any effort that any of these people does that does not result in them taking these people back to the countries that they came from is all political theater. If you guys agree with that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down.
Impact of that crackdown so far?
Yeah, well, clearly the governor is trying to circumvent law. I mean, this is, lawlessness that he is engaged in right now. And again, the entire impetus behind this ordinance was to make sure that there was coordination that was taking place from the border and the city of Chicago. We have attempted in every possible way to provide the type of structure and calm to a humanitarian crisis that, quite frankly, is global. This is an international crisis as global population shifts take place all over the world. And what we're experiencing in the city of Chicago is a direct result of an individual who is not committed to that type of accountability. And so we've put forth very clear guidelines. You can drop families off. Buses can come to the city of Chicago between these particular hours. We have to have a 48-hour notice. We need a full manifest. We need to know who is on the bus, the conditions in which these individuals are arriving in, so that we can provide the type of care that's needed.
Are those rules being followed, or are they meeting that requirement?
Well, they're not following the rules, right? And what we have seen, and this is going to be a dynamic that's not just going to be throughout the state of Illinois, but really throughout the country, where we now have rogue buses dropping off families in the middle of the night in various cities and municipalities throughout the state of Illinois. The type of chaos, the disruption that the governor of Texas is determined to create and cause, we're doing everything in our power to deal with this very overwhelming international crisis that has placed the city of Chicago as a target by this governor simply because he doesn't want to adhere to law.
We mentioned the tragic death of the 5-year-old Jean Carlos Martinez Rivero. You did a preliminary investigation you put out last night saying there's no evidence of infectious disease at this shelter in Pilsen. We know at least 4 other minors were taken to the hospital with respiratory problems.
So if there's no evidence of infectious disease that harmed this boy, then what was it that caused him? What was it that caused his death? That's an important question that seems like nobody has the answer to. What was it that caused his death? He didn't just die for no reason. Something happened that caused his death.
There are a lot of folks at this facility. Some say it's way overcrowded. Is it safe to stay there? And are they getting access to any kind of medical care?
Well, again, my deepest condolences, for this family and to this family, the loss of a child. This is breaking all of our hearts. What I've said repeatedly is that this crisis, of course, that is being promulgated by the unruly behavior and the ragged behavior of the governor of Texas, has placed the city of Chicago front and center to deal with this humanitarian crisis that's international. And of course, when families arrive in the city of Chicago, we provide immediate on-site medical care. We provide vaccinations, infection prevention. Again, Cook County government is providing medical care as well. And we provide transportation to make sure that these families make their appointments.
Are you confident this shelter is safe, though, this Pilsen shelter?
Well, everything that I've done over the course of these first 7 months is to ensure the safety of all of the migrants that are arriving here. And, the concerns that people have.
You guys notice how Brandon Johnson is not answering the question? He refuses to answer the question. He's been asked a direct question multiple times, and he won't answer the question.
In the city of Chicago, we provide immediate on-site medical care. We provide vaccinations, infection prevention. Again, Cook County government is providing medical care as well. And we provide transportation to make sure that these families make their appointments.
Are you confident this shelter is safe, though, this Pilsen shelter?
Well, everything that I've done over the course of these first 7 months is to ensure the safety of all of the migrants that are arriving here. And, the concerns that people have expressed, these aren't new concerns. Remember, there were 4,000 people living on floors in police districts. There were ambulatory runs that were happening there. That was unhealthy. It was undignified. I've eliminated all of our police districts. We did that within my administration, turned this thing around in 7 months. And remember, there was no budget that was appropriated from the previous city council. So not only did I have to stand up a new shelter every single week, we had to put forth appropriations, and then we had to renegotiate a contract with favored staffing to ensure that we're providing equitable
and
services.
they're the
for
ones
these families.
staffing this shelter, $40 million contract with them. There have been reports about how they've billed the city for 80-plus hour work weeks. Are they culpable at all for what's happened at this shelter? Are you confident in their work?
Well, we
forward?
have real serious control over how we actually measure, outcomes. And of course,
again, I want you guys to pay, how many people notice how Brandon Johnson is just avoiding the questions? If you guys see Brandon Johnson doing this, he's sidestepping these questions, give me a thumbs up. If y'all don't see him doing this and avoiding these questions, then give me a thumbs down. This guy, pay close attention to him, has not answered one question directly that they've asked of him.
We're constantly working to make this situation better. But make no mistake about it, the conditions in which families are arriving in are a direct result to the chaos that's at the border. And what we've said repeatedly, there has to be a coordinated effort, not just for the city of Chicago, but cities throughout the entire country that are dealing with this crisis at the hands of an individual who is elected to protect and to serve and to honor the interests of our country. And he is circumventing all of that.
An environmental report, Mayor, now reveals that a potential base camp site at 115th and Halstead is polluted with contaminants from an underground fuel tank. Will those plans be halted to build that site?
What's up with him choosing these places that are contaminated to put these migrant shelters on? That one that they just said, that address that they just gave, that's not the Brighton Park encampment. This is another one. What's up with all these chemicals all over the place?
Now reveals that a potential base camp site at 115th and Halstead is polluted with contaminants from an underground fuel tank. Will those plans be halted to build that site there?
Well, look, as I've done, we have scoured the entire city of Chicago looking for space and property to be able to confront this crisis, and working with our partners at the county level to provide services. The governor has made a commitment, I believe, to 2,200 beds to help address this crisis. And of course, I'm going to continue to assess all of the property, and the property that is best situated in order to meet the demand of this moment we're going to make sure that every option is still available to us.
You recently launched the People's Plan for Community Safety as your strategy for reducing violence, targeting some investment in some core neighborhood areas. So how is your plan going to be different from what Mayor Lightfoot tried to do, what Mayor Emanuel tried to do?
Well, look, this ongoing debate on getting at the root causes of violence, this is not a newer development. Remember, it was Lyndon Baines Johnson that actually made it a very strong point to get at the root causes of violence and crime in the country. And of course, Governor of Alabama ridiculed him and basically said that Lyndon Baines Johnson believes that people are participating in crime because a 10-year-old did not have enough watermelon to eat. And so what I've said repeatedly, that we have to make sure that we are centering our work around people. That's what this plan does. We also are centering our work around places. We have looked at neighborhoods where violence is pervasive, 35 very violent beats, while also looking at where schools have been closed. So this combination of where schools have been closed, where disinvestment has run rampant, where violence has been pervasive, this is where the investments need to take place. And this is where the partnerships come in handy. So the full force of government, all of our sister agencies, all of our departments that I oversee, along with our business community, our philanthropic community, the full force of government with partnerships from faith, from labor, from community, from philanthropy.
Brandon Johnson hasn't laid out 1 ounce of a plan. I don't know why anybody voted for him in Chicago, but that's the mayor of Chicago. Now, U.S. Immigration and Custom Enforcement has been busy. They've been busy because we got some new criminals on the scene. This took place on December 14th of 2023. In San Antonio, a federal judge sentenced a San Antonio man to 20 years in federal prison for distribution of child SA material. You guys know what child SA material means, right? This case was investigated by Homeland Security Investigations and the San Antonio Police Department. Peep game, peep the name. David Alejandro Bautista. Sound like an undocumented bro? If that sounds like an undocumented bro, give me a thumbs up. If it don't, give me a thumbs down. And real quick, shout out to everybody that's watching. If you guys have not smashed the like button, please take a moment, smash that like button. Also, if you guys have not hit the bell, please take a moment and hit the bell. David Alejandro Bautista, who is 32, was sentenced by a federal judge December 14th to 240 months in federal prison. The judge also ordered Bautista to pay $84,000 in restitution and special assessments in the amounts of $100, $5,000, and $35,000. He must also forfeit all of his electronic devices. Okay? Pretty bad. Next, we're going to talk about this particular individual here. This is somebody that came from El Salvador. Guess where they're going back to? Take a wild guess. Let me know in the comment section. Where they going back to? El Paso removes fugitive wanted in El Salvador back to his home country. Let me ask you guys this. How many undocumented bros do you all think are fugitives? Quite a few, not very many. What do you think? U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Removal Operations, El Paso deportation officers removed an unlawfully present El Salvadorian national December 15th, wanted in his home country for aggravated extortion. Wanted back in El Salvador for aggravated extortion. Herson Vladimir Molina Linares, who is 30, who had a final order of removal, was flown to El Salvador on a chartered flight operated by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement's ICE Air Operations Unit. ERO officers turned custody of Molina Linares over to local authorities at the Oscar Arnolfo Romero International Airport in San Salvador, El Salvador. Okay. On October 25th, Molina Linares illegally entered the United States at Santa Teresa, New Mexico, where U.S. Border Patrol agents encountered him and arrested him. The following day, the agents served Molina Linares with a notice and order of expedited removal. He was transferred to ICE custody on November 15th and was detained at the Otero County Processing Center until his removal from the United States on December 15th. El Paso's cooperation with foreign authorities has proven beneficial time and time again, not only to ensure that dangerous individuals attempting to dodge justice are removed from our country, but also to make our community safer, said El Paso Field Office Director Mary D. Ybarra. Our message is this: the United States is not a safe haven for international fugitives seeking to avoid the law in their home country. Yeah, but actually that's what's going on right now. That's actually what's going on right now at the southern border. Would you guys, if you guys agree with that, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree, give me a thumbs down. Now, remember, the Democrats, they wanted to abolish ICE a couple years ago. If you guys type in abolish ICE, you can probably still find social media posts and videos and political commentary on abolishing ICE. Let's get rid of ICE. A lot of those Democrats have now changed their minds about that. So now this is what we got here. An HSI Baltimore investigation lands a Maryland man 15 years in federal prison for drug and ammunition charges. An investigation conducted by Homeland Security Investigations in Baltimore, the Drug Enforcement Administration, Washington, D.C., and the Montgomery County Police Department and the Prince George County Police Department resulted in a Maryland man receiving a 15-year federal prison sentence, followed by 5 years of supervised release for conspiracy to distribute cocaine, for possession with the intent to distribute cocaine, and for being a felon in possession of ammunition. Now, listen to this name here. Is this an undocumented bro? William Reyes Garcia. Is homeboy an undocumented bro? He's 33. He's from Silver Springs, Maryland. He received the 15-year prison sentence at the U.S. District Court for the District of Maryland in Greenbelt on December 15th. William Reyes supervised a criminal enterprise that distributed poison around Maryland, said HSI Baltimore Special Agent in Charge, James C. Harris. Our communities are safer today because of the arrest and sentencing of Reyes and his co-conspirators. We stand firm in our commitment to rid our streets of illegal drugs and those who profit from the distribution. According to the investigation, between September 22 and September 2020 and January 2022, Reyes and his co-conspirators participated in drug trafficking organization responsible for the distribution of at least 5 kilograms of cocaine. Based on chats, phone calls, intercepted communications, and other evidence, Reyes Garcia was the head of DTO. During the investigation, authorities seized 4 packages containing approximately 15.65 kilograms of cocaine. The packages were shipped from Brownsville, Texas, to an address associated with the DTO in Beltsville, Maryland. Investigators obtained Reyes Garcia's fingerprints from one of the containers in the packages. Law enforcement identified 3 additional packages, which investigators believe also contain narcotics, that were sent to the DTO, associated businesses, and to a co-conspirator's residence. Tracking information obtained from the shipping company revealed that an IP address associated with Reyes Garcia tracked the seized packages containing cocaine as well as the additional packages. In October of 2021, law enforcement seized a 2-kilogram package of cocaine that was sent to Reyes Garcia. Intercepted communications following the seizure allegedly showed that this package of cocaine was intended for distribution by DTO. Authorities executed search warrants at locations associated with Reyes Garcia's residence in January of 2022. Law enforcement recovered more than 139 grams of cocaine, more than 101 kilograms of marijuana, a privately manufactured 9mm semi-automatic handgun, commonly known as a ghost gun, a magazine loaded with 22 rounds of 9mm ammunition, 53 rounds of 40 caliber ammunition, 42 rounds of 45 caliber ammunition, 50 rounds of 38 caliber ammunition, firearm parts including a frame, slide, barrel sling, and a magazine, and drug paraphernalia including digital scales with drug residue and a money counter. Reyes knew that he had previous felony convictions and was prohibited from possessing firearms or ammunition. Co-defendants Fabricio Alexis Riviera of 32 of Rockville, Maryland, Rocky Ricky Riviera of Beltsville, Maryland, previously pleaded guilty and are waiting for sentencing. Now, look, I want you guys to pay close attention. Do you guys see who these people are doing their illegal enterprise with? They're not breaking bread with black people. They're not doing gang goofy shit. Anybody happen to notice that? Fernando Josu Garcia of Glendale, Maryland, Noel Reyes Jr. of Bowie, Maryland, pleaded guilty with their roles in the conspiracy and were sentenced to 63 months and 72 months in federal prison, respectively. Charges remain pending against the other 3 co-defendants. So this is what I'm talking about some people can't even do crime right. These people come to the United States, they get with other people that are similar to them, and then they do business. They do business. So now the question that I have in ending that is, how goofy are the gangs that we see? How goofy are these rappers that are all hugged up with other people on TV? Who's making them do that? Who's making people go work with No Jumper Podcast or go on Vlad TV? Who got a gun to their head making them do that? You know what I'm saying? It's just a thought. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank the stream sponsor. Shout out to Sybil with the 5 ducats. Definitely appreciate it. Shout out to Lloyd Sky9 for the 5 ducats. Definitely appreciate it. Shout out to the Green Team for being the lifeblood of the channel. I definitely appreciate you guys. Make sure you guys, if you're not subscribed to TD Hip Hop Media's channel, that y'all go and subscribe to him. Appreciate him sharing the stream to his community post. That definitely helps. If you are not subscribed to my backup channels, if you're not subscribed to my other social media, if you're not part of the Discord, take a moment and do that. And as always, ladies and gentlemen,
walk up in the life. Yeah, I'm really him. Talking my shit like I'm really him. Hold up. Look, walking this bitch like, hey. Yeah, I'm really him. Talking my shit like, hey. I'm really him. Don't believe me? Come and see me. Got 3 wishes from my genie. Now I'm on your local TV. Y'all on tour. Got demons. Say she wanna come and see me when I'm in a local city. I'm like, pause though. Please step aside so they can see me. And I walk up in this light. Yeah, I'm really him. Talking my shit like I'm really him. On God. Walk up in this light. Yeah, I'm really him. Talking my shit like I'm really him. I'm the realest from my city. That's on my knee. That's on Kiwi. That's on mamas. Nigga, don't believe me? Come and see me. I been dodging all that fake. All these niggas working broke, but I been getting paid. All that know me from the street. Flexing for what feature, that's like every other week. Talk behind my back, I kick my feet up, have a seat. Cause at the end of the day, all these watching me as I walk up in this light. Yeah, I'm really him. Talking my shit like I'm really him, on God. Walk up in this light. Yeah, I'm really him. Talking my shit like I'm really him, on God. Walk up in this light. Yeah, I'm really him. Talking my shit like I'm really him. Hold up. Look, walking this light. Hey. Yeah, I'm really him. Talking my shit like, hey, I'm really him. Hold up.